You know, you take one day off covering these goobers in D.C., and they remind you how ridiculous and how insane they are. Good morning. Happy Friday. We've made it to the end of the week. It is great to be here on KCMO. Now, wasn't off yesterday, but, you know, we had so much going on here in town with these updates and developments, especially on the Chiefs and Royals sales tax, which we'll have more on coming up here throughout the hour. But yesterday, the Green New Deal is back. Did you see this? Yes, the Green New Deal is back in the conversation. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, and many of the others held a little press conference outside of Capitol Hill yesterday, and they are resurrecting the Green New Deal. And this one's only going to cost you $234 billion. Talk about a discount. The goal here is to invest that money over the next decade to further the goal of expanding and transitioning the entire stock of U.S. public housing into zero-carbon homes. That's right. So I'm sure there are plenty of people who are living in public housing who would love like a toilet that worked, who would love running water. They would love warm water. But don't worry, AOC and Bernie Sanders are fighting the good fight, and they want to make sure that it's more about making these homes zero-carbon homes than it is making sure their water is running, making sure their stoves are working, making sure they're not dealing with slumlords. But hey, focus on what's really important, why don't you? So yesterday, they held this press conference outside the Capitol, and this was part of the deal as well. Part of the $234 billion that they want to spend include insane objectives like this from Jamal Bowman. Take a listen. And by the way, this is the guy, Jamal Bowman. He's a New York congressman. He's the guy who pulled the fire alarm a few months ago because he didn't want to go vote on something. Remember that whole thing? So that's Jamal Bowman, and here he is talking about his plan within this Green New Deal reboot.
It is plantation capitalism to have someone paying 40, 50, 60% of their salary towards rent. That is plantation capitalism. Rent should be capped at 20% of someone's salary. That's where we need to take it. And as we rebuild our cities and as we rebuild our country to ensure that every single person has a home, we need to invest and pass the Green New Deal for public housing.
Right. Absolutely. Right.
It deals with the issue of unemployment and underemployment. It deals with the issue of the climate catastrophe that we are living in, and it deals with the issue of lack of affordable housing in our country. As the senator said, win, win, win.
Win, win, win. Jamal Bowman. So he wants to cap rents at 20% of what you take home. Okay, so let me get this straight. If your rent costs 40, 50, 60% of your take-home pay, how much of that is on you? I'm just, wondering here.
I'm not worth your Red Lobster money.
I mean, if you are not spending money properly, whether it's too much on rent or, too much on Red Lobster, whatever the answer is, what is the answer to your problems? Let's think this through together. This is not difficult. The answer to your problems is what? Figure out a way to find a place that you can afford. Figure out how to find a place that is not 40, 50, 60% of your take-home pay on rent. But right out of the gates, what does Jamal Bowman do in that clip? He dives into slavery, plantation. You heard him drop the word, right? You heard him say it. You'll hear it again.
It is plantation capitalism.
What does plantation capitalism even mean? I've been listening to this clip 3 or 4 times this morning before we came on the air. Plantation capitalism, meaning the landlord is keeping you down and treating you like a slave and making you pay a certain amount of your paycheck for your rent, here's the beauty of it, right? You pick up and you go if you don't like it. You pick up, you leave, you say, see you later, I'm out, I'm done. I'm going somewhere else. You know, I've signed a lot of leases in my day, and at no point did somebody hold a gun to my head and say, you better sign this or else. Maybe you've experienced that at 913-408-7957, but I have not had that experience. But if you had, please do let us know. So the Green New Deal reboot came down yesterday. Now, is this thing going anywhere? No, it's not going anywhere. But AOC and Bernie Sanders and Jamal Bowman, they were looking for something to do yesterday, I guess. It looked like a nice day in D.C. So they were like, you know what? Let's go out there and let's do a press conference on a Green New Deal reboot, $234 billion for public housing. That's what they're doing right now in Washington, D.C., trying to figure out how to spend more of your money that they do not have. It's 6:11 as we kick it off on a Friday morning, wrapping up the week. Bill O'Reilly's going to be here at 8:30 this morning. So a couple hours from now, you don't want to miss Big Bad Bill O'Reilly on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Mark, is that bracket of yours busted yet as we kick off day 2 of the NCAA tournament?
Not too bad. I was undefeated all the way until Kentucky lost.
So you did not have 14-seed Oakland beating 3-seed Kentucky in your bracket?
Yeah, I did not have that.
So you did have BYU losing to Duquesne?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I picked
Good
that
for
one.
you. You had that upset on the table.
I had 3 11s over 6s. I did not have North Carolina State over Texas Tech, though. So I should have just gone all 11s over 6s.
Yeah, 11-6 has become the new 12-5.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
It really has. So, okay. Well, good for you.
But only 3 X's yesterday.
Oh,
so not
okay.
bad.
Oh, I forgot to fill out the work bracket. You know, the boss here, Donna, was giving away free money.
Yeah.
And I just forgot to fill it out. You know, there's been too much going on here the last couple of days. So I forgot to fill out my bracket. So now I'm just pulling for you to make some money and buy us lunch. How's that sound?
I'm tied for first right now.
Are you really?
With Chris Castro, our engineer.
Chris Castro?
He has Purdue going all the way. I have Houston.
I like your Houston pick.
Thank you.
Chris has got to realize Purdue is not going to make it all the way.
Yeah.
They crap out every single year early in this tournament. I love Chris, but he's not going to win this thing. How many people are in the pool, by the way?
Not that many, actually. I think there's only about, like, a dozen.
Oh, you got a good chance. Yeah. The boss lady said she's giving away a few $100 here. Yeah. So, okay. All right. Good for you there, Mark. I did not stay up for the KU finish either. By the way, it was a clean block.
Baker's out of the NAIA, Mizzou.
Oh.
Nowhere near the NCAA. So
did Baker lose in the NAIA?
They lost.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Well, we're rolling through a busy morning here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Coming up, we do have some polling. You know, we've been wondering about polling when it comes to the Jackson County vote that's coming up on April 2nd. We finally have something to look at. And I don't think the results of the polling is going to surprise you. We'll share it next on KCMO Talk Radio at 95.7 FM and streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. We have been waiting for some kind of polling around the stadiums for weeks now. And we finally have some to look at. With a week and a half to go until April 2nd, when Jackson County voters will decide whether or not you want to take this 3/8 cent sales tax and take it another 40 years for the Chiefs and the Royals, or if you want to say no. So here's what we've got. This was done by Remington Research Group through phone and text messaging. And I want to clarify who owns Remington Research Group. Is owned by Axiom Strategies. Axiom Strategies is the official consultant for the yes vote here. So the Chiefs and the Royals have hired Axiom. Axiom was founded by this guy, Jeff Rowe, who is now one of the biggest players with Axiom in political consulting on the Republican side all across the country. He ran Ted Cruz's campaign in 2016. He ran Glenn Youngkin's campaign in Virginia for governor, and he also ran, more recently, Ron DeSantis' campaign.
I had a question. Are they behind the yes vote?
Yes.
And so is that separate from the Chiefs and the Royals, or is that all together, I suppose?
The Chiefs and the Royals are funding the yes vote.
There we
go.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you.
So they've dumped $2 million, the two teams have, into the yes vote, and Axiom Strategies is working on behalf of the yes vote. So Remington Research is behind the yes. They did some polling on this. And remember, I don't trust any polls anymore, whether it's political, like presidential. I mean, I take them with a grain of salt is probably the best way to put it. It's not that I don't trust them, but I'm just skeptical of any poll because you can make a poll say whatever you want. The Remington Research Group, through phone and text messaging, indicates that 47% would vote yes and 46% would vote no. This was 506 likely voters with a plus or minus 4.5 margin of error. So basically, it's a dead heat right now on yes and no in Jackson County for this tax for the Royals and the Chiefs. Now, the reason I bring up who conducted the poll is important. Who conducts the poll matters because it signals to you the message they want to get across. Now, you might think that polling is very pure, and I'd like to think that it is. But when it comes to issues and local topics like this, there are those who would be incentivized to suggest an election might be closer than it actually is. This, to me, can be construed a couple of ways. You could say Axiom, which oversees this Remington Research Group, wants to make it look very close, so that way the yes voters get out. And the yes voters go out there, and they definitely go out and vote April 2nd because this thing is not a slam dunk. The other way to look at it might be this. The yes vote is getting its butt kicked, and they put out a poll suggesting it's dead heat, so that way yes voters don't get discouraged. I don't know which one it is. Maybe it's neither. Maybe it's just a pure poll, and there's nothing to see here, and this is just going to be a very close election on April 2nd. I've always said it was going to be a close election, but I'm not making any naked lap bets on it this time around because I learned my lesson the hard way when I had to do a naked lap around this building back in 2022 after Amanda Atkins got her clock cleaned in the 3rd District. So I'm not making that mistake again because I don't want to have Mark chase me around the building half nude with a cell phone. All right? So I'm just trying to look out for Mark when I do all this, really.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep, no problem there, buddy. So over 90% of those polled say they have heard or seen at least some information about the Chiefs and the Royals Stadium proposals, which also surprised me. Do the other 10% live under a rock? Are they like in a coma? It's amazing to me. You know, we do this for a living, and obviously you're listening, and our numbers keep going up, and we're excited about that this show keeps growing. But it is stunning to me how much people spend time in their own bubble where they don't know, like, the very things and the most important things happening right around them. For 10% of people right now in Jackson County to be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Who could that possibly be? Who could possibly be like, yep, not a clue what you guys are talking about right now. But apparently they're out there. So they showed how they broke this thing down, by the way, by political party. So 53% of those who are polled are Democrats, 26% are Republicans, 21% are nonpartisan, 26% conservative, 41% moderate, 33% progressive. So it had a Democratic lean, but that's okay because it is Jackson County after all. That's how you would want a poll to go. You would want it to be more of a Democratic-leaning poll than a Republican-leaning poll. So I have no problem with the makeup of this poll, and it signals to me what is going to be a razor-thin race. Now, someone sent me a Facebook message last night that they started seeing vote no television commercials.
Oh, I haven't seen TV.
I have not seen this yet, but I did see Casey Tennant's drop a vote no ad on social media. I don't know if this is the one that's been on TV. I was locked in on the tournament last night, so I was kind of bouncing around on YouTube. TV is great. You can watch 4 games at once on your screen. It's really a thing of beauty. So I was not watching a ton of commercials last night. But I'm curious if you've seen the Vote No TV commercial that I guess is starting to circulate. if it's the same one as KC Tenants put up on social media. Here it is.
Billionaire owner wants a downtown stadium and your tax dollars to pay for it. They're threatening to move the teams otherwise, but that's an empty threat. Don't let billionaires bully you into giving them a handout. Vote no to save taxpayers $2 billion over 40 years. Vote no on robbing from our public schools. Vote no on higher rents and property taxes. They're hiding a bad deal behind good players. Vote no for Kansas City. Vote no April 2nd on question 1.
At the bottom of that, it says paid for by KC Tenants. So I don't know if that's the commercial that now is going to be run on TV the next 10 days. I still want to know where the heck KC Tenants is getting all this money from to run TV commercials and to have these ads made, which are not cheap. But they've got some dough behind them, and apparently the no vote is starting to get out some TV ads. And to me, that's the kind of ad that right now in this populist-leaning environment that we find ourselves in on both sides of the political aisle could actually have a pretty positive effect for the no vote with Republicans and Democrats. I know that KC Tenants is nuts. I know they're a bunch of commies and socialists. Like, they'll tell you they are. But at the same time, I'm looking at that and I'm saying to myself, holy cow, that one is going to sell a lot of people. That is going to be pretty effective if it does get mass reach on TV and radio in this town over the next 10 days, which remains to be seen. But I did get some Facebook notes last night from some of you saying that you're starting to see no votes circulated on television. So if it's that one, text us at 913-408-7957. And no, hey, in Jackson County, you have got 10 days to get to the polls, to go out, to vote early, and know that this thing is going to be razor close. 913-408-7957. News coming up. Bottom of the hour here on KCMO. Bill O'Reilly is going to be on the show at 8:30. Don't miss it. The Royals, by the way, are attacking Frank White. We'll get to those details and more. The knives are out for Frank White. I'll get to that here in a minute on KCMO. But we did just have one of our many reporter sources, moles around the city, tell us that the Vote No commercial that I just played earlier in the show aired in the last few minutes on Fox 4. So KC Tenants is now spending who knows how much money on television commercials here in town. They're not going to have Chiefs and Royals money. They've got $2 million. But by the way, for a group that's like all about helping out poor people supposedly with their rent, why don't they do that instead of spending money on TV commercials? I don't know. I mean, like, I get it. There's a lot of people in this audience who are also on the Vote No side, even though the KC Tenants are a bunch of lunatics. But for people who are like, I'm just here to help the little guy, help the poor guy, while I run fancy TV commercials on Fox 4 and KCTV5 and all the other local channels in town, where are you getting that money from? As some of you are noting on the text line here at 913-408-7957, Pete, KC Tenants is getting that money from us. They're getting that money from the taxpayer. Well, sad to say, you're probably right. You are. They get city grants, which is, your tax money and our tax money, which is, gosh, painful to say, but it's true.
I think they get all the T-shirt revenue from their concerts. No, you might as well think of Tenants Inc., because I'm sitting here Googling. You can find Omaha Tenants. They're around. So I think there's some national underfooting here, maybe. Yeah,
I don't know who the big money person would be underneath the whole thing. I don't know if those are connected.
They're like franchise. Oh, they kind of have the same verbiage when I looked, when you see KC Tenants versus Omaha Tenants.
Oh,
same little thing.
All right.
It wasn't one for St. Louis specifically or Wichita, so I struck out on the next two, but I'm pretty sure there's kind of got franchises around the nation.
Oh, gosh. All right. So, well, someone's funding them.
Yeah, like I say, a lot of it's us.
A lot of it is us, the taxpayer here in Kansas City. So that's where they get some of their dough. So they are running TV commercials. How about that? Go figure. In the meantime, the knives are out for Frank White. Frank White is now, as the Jackson County executive, getting called out by leadership within the Kansas City Royals. Sarah Torville is an executive vice president. She told Channel 9, KMBC, that White's opposition was a roadblock and has been a roadblock for years. She told KMBC Channel 9, I would tell you that it's unfortunate that Frank White has slowed this process down. She said he has been an impediment to the progress moving forward. But we're also grateful for the legislature, meaning the Jackson County legislature. They allowed the voters to come out on April 2nd and make a decision for themselves. I'm not here to be a Frank White fanboy. I'm trying to get Frank on the show next week. We've had, I think, positive conversations to get him on the show, which would be, by the way, his first appearance on this show on KCMO, if it does end up happening. But to say that Frank White has been the impediment to progress is not a fair characterization of what's gone on in this process over the last 18 months. You want to talk about impediments to progress? How about the fact that the Royals told the city that by September 30th, they would have a location picked? We waited until February to find out what that location was. So if I look at impediments to progress, if I look at, what has gone on here in this town over the last 18 months, the Royals have to take some responsibility. It's only fair. And that's not defending Frank White. I don't want to be defending Frank White. I'm not picking Frank White's side here. But if we're properly telling the story and properly characterizing how we got to today, Friday, March 22nd, 10 days out from this election, and the thing is razor thin, it is not in any way fair to sit here and say it's been Frank White's fault and he has been the guy who's been the impediment to the progress moving forward. Everybody deserves some blame here. The legislature, Frank White, but also the Royals. And you can include the Chiefs for that matter. I mean, the Chiefs are kind of just, I think, going along to get along and trying to get this damn thing across the finish line to get some upgrades. But, the Royals have blown through their own deadlines and have lacked transparency in the process. So I'm not looking to carry Frank White's water. I don't think anybody in Jackson County should be carrying Frank White's water based on what this county has dealt with over the last bunch of months. Whether it's this issue or, of course, the tax assessment debacle. However, to be fair to Frank, and yes, he may have and clearly does have, I don't want to say may have, he clearly does have a personal axe to grind with the team. It is not fair to just point the finger at him and say, if it wasn't for Frank, we'd be in a good place and this thing would be passing with flying colors. I'm not buying that. Text line and the phones are 913-408-7957. Pete, I'll admit I spend too much time watching reels on Facebook. Well, that's the first step, right? You got to admit it.
Yep.
All right. But I have seen multiple different reels from a group about voting no on the Royals. Many are clips from what looks like town halls or debates, some from businesses near there. So basically, they're reaching the short attention span, low information voter. Well, I don't even think it's just that. That's Facebook Reels and Instagram Reels right now are where the algorithms are pushing you. It's not a bad thing. It's just a reality. And little snippet videos are in right now. You keep your video 15, 30, 45 seconds. That's where the Facebook algorithms and the Instagram algorithms want them to be. And yes, that does help reach the low information voter. There's no doubt about it. And the younger voter. And the thought process, I think, by many people on the vote no side is that the younger voter is going to be more likely to also vote with them and say, I'm kind of just getting my career going here. Times are tough. I'm not making a ton of money. I'm early in my career, and the billionaires want more of my tax dollars. No, not so fast. So I think that's part of the calculation by the vote no side and why you're seeing a lot of that on social media. Many of you also saying that you have seen the commercial that we aired from KC Tenants earlier in the morning on local TV. So, that is something that apparently you're going to see more of over the next 10 days. But if I see KC Tenants break out some, big-ass media budget where they're spending six figures on TV and radio over the next 10 days, I'm going to question what the heck they do with their money, where their dark money is coming from, how much of this is our money, your money as a Kansas City taxpayer. That would be insane. I would be stunned by that. But you know what? At this point, nothing surprises me in this town. This has been, in my starting year 7 here pretty soon, as fascinating a local political story as we've had. It's not a sports story. This is a political news story. It's masked as sports because it involves sports teams, but this is the furthest thing from a sports story, which is why the sports goobers in town are just like, vote yes, go Chiefs, go Royals. They don't even understand the background, the power players, and the politics. And that's why I think that we are, I say this, I don't want to make it sound, in any way too much like we're patting ourselves on the back, but I genuinely believe that we have covered this from both sides better than any media outlet here in Kansas City, while also getting your input from across the political spectrum. 6:43. It is great to be here on a Friday. Bill O'Reilly joins me at 8:30 this morning. So if you're typically at the office by then, make sure you're streaming us on the KCMO Talk Radio app. That's going to be a great conversation with Bill. It's coming up in less than 2 hours. The Missouri Republican Party is trying to throw somebody off the ballot who has solid ties to, I don't know about ties, but certainly is sympathetic and has pictures and social media posts to the KKK. Is that the right move? I'll tell you a little background on this individual as well next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Well, you want to talk about, the way we're raising kids and, in many ways, the terrible job we're doing culturally and societally. Here's another great example of that in the wake of the conversation we just had with Abigail Schreier, who was on with Dan Bongino yesterday talking about her new book that I definitely want to read called Bad Therapy, Why the Kids Aren't Growing Up. But let's go over to St. Louis, where the brutal viral beating and fight that took place that has resulted in a 16-year-old girl, Kaylee Gain, remaining unconscious. You know, that story that's we talked about it last week when it became a big deal. And there really hasn't been many developments on this story as of late. But the 15-year-old who has beaten 16-year-old Kaylee Gain into unconsciousness, well, her family is trying to raise money for her. They have started multiple GoFundMes. They have been shut down. That's right. The 15-year-old who is on video, and let's, just not beat around the bush. Part of the reason this story has gotten an enormous amount of attention is because the girl who is unconscious right now is white. The girl who beat her up was black. And, it has gotten a lot of national media attention. But I think we can totally admit, regardless of how you feel, that if this had been reversed, this would be still headline news on many cable news channels. I'll put it that way. So anyway, now you've got the person who was the attacker here, whose family is speaking out and trying to help her raise money. The accused attacker's loved ones are asking the juvenile court system to show compassion for the teen. And they are now seeking $150,000 in donations towards her legal defense. If you haven't seen the video, this attacker picks up 16-year-old Kaylee Gain and slams her head into pavement half a dozen times. And she is now unconscious. And this was over at East Hazelwood High School in St. Louis. I mean, it is as terrible a video as you'll see if you haven't seen it. Go pull it up on social media. I'm not sharing it. I've seen it one too many times. It is just tragic. As of right now, this 15-year-old, whose name we don't have, is being charged as a minor. But the teen suspect's family recently launched a petition on change.org, begging the 21st Circuit Court not to charge her as an adult. The petition highlighted the girl's many academic and athletic accomplishments, including the fact that she speaks 4 languages, plays the violin in school orchestra, and volleyball on the school's team, and had recently been selected for college-level AP classes. The petition read here, prior to an incident on March 8th where she was seen defending herself from harassment and bullying, she had never been in trouble, it read. Her work as a scholar was tainted by the bullying she had endured at school. So now they're trying to turn her into the victim. So you have a family of a girl who has potentially beaten another girl to death, claiming she is the victim when everybody has seen the video. And yeah, I mean, it's an after-school fight, right? I mean, it's been happening since the beginning of time. And you have this 15-year-old literally take this girl's head and slam it into pavement. I mean, it is a terrible video. And the audacity of any family, I know you might be trying to protect your own here, but the audacity of any family to try to raise $150,000 and do a change.org petition claiming you're the real victim here is the very definition of out of touch. It's the very definition of putting yourself in a place where you should not be and being completely socially unaware of what the heck is going on and how ridiculous you look. But that's what we've created, right? We've created a culture where criminals are victims. They're victims of society. We let them down. Boo-hoo. We didn't give them enough. And that's why they turn to a life of crime, or that's why they beat somebody to a pulp, or whatever. We've done this, and it's been on steroids over the last 4 years. It's been going on for probably the better part of 15, but it really got terrible over the last 4 to 5 years or so. And that's how we ended up here. And the fact that nobody has the self-awareness to say, stop, you look ridiculous, this is completely out of control, is symptomatic of everything we're dealing with right now. Now, meantime, we also know that the Missouri Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, has opened up an investigation into the school district, East Hazelwood High. He is saying that it's possible that the school district bears some responsibility for the brutal attack. Now, what he's doing is he's opening up an investigation into the school's DEI promotion. Here's the story as we've got it here right in front of us. Andrew Bailey has opened up an investigation into the school district that he said bears some responsibility for the brutal attack on a St. Louis teen who was seen in a viral video having her head bashed into the pavement by another student. Bailey told Fox News yesterday that he would be opening this investigation into Hazelwood School District and how their DEI programs contributed to the safety failures following this violent attack. Bailey said to Fox News Digital, Hazelwood owes the parents of the district and the entire community an explanation as to what role those radical programs and safety failures played here. In a letter sent to Hazelwood School District Superintendent, Bailey said he is disturbed to see the school district has ignored long-standing Missouri law and elevated political narrative above student safety. Good. I'm glad he's doing this because it's something that also, when you think about it, we've got to give consideration to. If children are being peppered with propaganda as well about who they are, their victim statuses, and everything else based on nothing other than their skin color, who's a victim, who's an oppressor, if this is something that is actively being taught in these schools, then it can lead to traumatic situations like this. Not directly, but there can be an innate, indirect feeling that children whose brains can't really grasp these concepts anyway, and that are totally built on the belief of racism, it's something that can absolutely play a role and have an impact on these young people. Mark's got me all bent out of shape. Mark's just trying to piss me off on a Friday. I mean, Mark, come on now. Would you please?
Sorry, I saw it. I had to share it.
Mark's just telling me how there are sports talk show hosts who do morning shows in this town who are just, I mean, total simps for the yes side because they are just clueless and don't know any better. And I'm not on the no side. I'm just kind of covering this like the political news story that it is. I mean, they're just shameless shills is what they are. It's so transparent. And they're talking about the Kansas City public school tax. I guess, Bulldog, as some claim he is called in this town. Bulldog. If you're calling yourself Bulldog, I promise you are a loser. The Royals are making KCPS whole with this new ballpark. They're not going to lose 1 cent of funding. Okay, you don't really understand how this stuff works then. When you're talking about sales taxes and tax abatements and TIF money and things like that, if you are absolved from having to pay certain things for your place of business, then theoretically that money that you would be spending that would be going into, the local tax coffers in part for schools are not there, are not available. That's how it works. That's why sports guys should talk about sports and leave the big boy conversations to those of us who do this. And you, the listener, who are everyone listen, I'm talking to you right now. Yes, you. I promise you know this issue, you know this topic, you know this more than your run-of-the-mill sports talk show host who gives himself a nickname like Bulldog. Okay? We'll leave it at that. I did that without getting too upset there, Mark. I know you were trying to get under my skin and get me to go on some big rant at 8:20 in the morning, but I was able to, handle myself okay there.
That was nice.
All right.
Very
thank
nice.
you. Now, this next one, I don't know if I can do it. This went viral yesterday. I guess this is a plus-sized influencer. Yes, those exist. Her handle is Curvy Chronicles. And Curvy Chronicles, who's got, 100+ thousand followers on Instagram and TikTok, she put out a new viral video complaining about how it's tough being obese on an airplane. Let's roll the tape.
I'm plus size and on a plane. Of course I can't put the tray table down. I'm plus size and on a plane. Of course I'm going to sit beside the smallest member of my family. I'm plus size and on a plane. Of course the armrest is digging. I'm plus size and on a plane. Of course I have to shimmy down the aisle sideways. I'm plus size and on a plane. Of course I need a seatbelt extender.
Okay, so it's basically this fat lady talking about how she can't put down the armrest on a plane. She can't put down her tabletop on the plane. She can't fit down the aisle of a plane. And she needs a seatbelt extender. And that's really the 25 seconds. I mean, gosh, I really missed the mark. Why am I doing 4 hours of somewhat insightful talk radio a day when I can just get myself nice and fat and plump and make 25-second videos and get 1 million people to watch them? What am I doing? I mean, I totally, I missed the mark on this.
You're still missing the mark.
I know.
You could do that, but then complain that a left-handed person with those same issues, right? You can have a niche as a left-handed overweight person.
I'm going to do that as a lefty myself.
Right.
That's what I'm going to do. Why do we write from left to right whenever I used a pencil as a kid writing left to right, my hand was filthy growing up?
So we go to family dinner, right? One of the guys is left-handed, so we kind of work around his left-handedness so he can eat without winging you.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm working way too hard.
Yep.
I can get endorsement deals by just sitting on TikTok getting fat, making videos on airplanes for 30 seconds. This is way too much work. And I'm going to add to her little video, I'm plus size on a plane. Of course the plane is struggling to take off. I mean, geez, of course this thing can't get off the ground. I was thinking about this as I was watching this video last night. As a guy who's done quite a bit of flying with a young family, and as someone who has, carried around my wife's luggage, which has to be 50 pounds or under, right? If you get hit with 51 pounds, you got to pay like another $35 for that luggage to go on the airplane. So I'm always the guy. Not always. We've gotten better at this over the years. But I have been the guy at the airport who puts the luggage on the scale right? And they'll say, sorry, sir, this is 52.5 pounds. You've got to take 2.5 pounds out of the luggage. Okay, so I unpack the luggage. I pull out, some makeup things. I move it into the other luggage, and then we put it back on. Oh, this one's 51. We need 1 more pound removed from this piece of luggage. Okay, well, here we go again. As someone who has done that, who has been that guy in the airport, it infuriates me that at a clean 6 foot, 180 pounds, I'm moving makeup bags out of suitcases to avoid $35 surcharges when someone who's a load at 350 pounds gets to walk onto a plane, take videos of how fat they are, brag about it, and there's no extra cost for them. Why do we charge extra money for a luggage that is 52 pounds instead of 50 when someone can walk on an airplane at 350 pounds, 170 pounds more than I am, and there's nothing at all? On top of that, the poor sucker that's got to sit next to her, he's got to basically sit there like a sardine for a 2 or 3 hour flight. The airline industry is so screwed up. But we have so missed the mark where they now, and they could never charge you for being fat because that would be fat shaming, obviously. They would be sued into oblivion. But the fact that they charge you when your bag is 52 pounds instead of 50, but someone can walk on a plane at 350 pounds and you're half the weight, and that's the same charge, that's the same cost, when there's a much bigger inconvenience to sitting next to a 350-pound person than there is having your luggage be 52 pounds. If you were to try to talk to somebody about this, like from 1982, who just woke up out of a coma, they would be like, they wouldn't understand. They would be so confused. And they also would probably be offended by how awful the airline industry has gotten. But yeah, plus size on a plane. I think I'll share that on Twitter just for a Friday laugh if you want it. All right, we'll have some fun with that on KCMO. Bill O'Reilly, it's always fun to have him on. He's next on 95.7 FM and the KCMO Talk Radio app. As I still have 30 seconds. Sorry, thought I was jumping the gun there, Mark. I'm good. What else do we want to talk about for the next 20 seconds? Huh? You got something good for me here? I got 15 seconds to kill. Give me something good. Did you hit your KU bet last night?
I was one point off from Hunter Dickinson.
Oh, okay.
He needed 20 points. He had 19.
By the way, I'll say it. If KU fans won't. That was a clean block. KU got host. Or Samford got host. KU got the benefit of the doubt on that.